Does anyone else feel that like their hair is just getting just way too wild? Like this looks like I'm in high school. One of the pros of this quarantine life, hats are on all day long. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So great to have you here. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on this channel, on this journey, on this road that we are on to teaching you guys a little bit about what we do. And in today's episode, teaching you all about audio sound design in Adobe Premiere Pro. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another video, guys. It's so great to have everyone here and tuning in from wherever you are in the world, whatever time of day it is. We're in quarantine life, so like there's no rules, but I appreciate you guys being here. In today's video, we will be breaking down how we built our audio track and our sound design in our most recent video, which I've linked above. If you guys have not watched that, I highly recommend you do so, just because it's awesome and it would really help you guys to understand what we're diving into in this video right now. In whatever format you're creating, audio plays just an important role as your video does. So we're going to go into Premiere Pro right now and take a look at our project file that we're going to be working on today. And really what I want to talk about today is just breaking these things down so that it helps you guys at home to really amp up those films, those videos with the proper elements of sound design. And those four major elements that we're going to talk about today are music, diegetic or actual sound, voiceover, and sound effects. We're just going to play back the first 20 seconds of the video that you guys just saw, and then we will begin to break down the elements that make up this specific video. Life is so short. We hear it all the time in our daily lives. But few people ever really take action on those four powerful words. So what I want to do is go back to the beginning here of our timeline. The timeline's very small, so a little shortcut that I like to use is Shift plus to expand my entire timeline so that I can see my video track on the top layer and all my audio tracks here below. This is just a really good way to, if you have a big monitor, even on a laptop, it's great to really see the waveforms, see the actual clip that you're working with. I find it really tough to work in this sort of timeline. And if you didn't want to expand the entire thing, Command plus just expands your video tracks and video layers, and Option plus expands your audio tracks. So these are super helpful tools, helpful shortcuts that'll just make your life a whole lot easier. What I wanted to do is show you guys first how I organize my video and my audio tracks so that you can get a better understanding of why it's so important to do that, especially when you start to have timelines that look a little bit like this and just look, to someone that's new at editing video, it can be extremely terrifying. And organizing those tracks is one of the ways in which you can really maintain a nice clean timeline, and it'll save you a ton of time in the end. So we're going to expand this here. And right now you will see that my video layers, other than the adjustment layers above, my video layers I try to keep on like 1 to 3 tracks tops. I really don't like to have too many. Obviously that's based on the edit, but in today's video we're primarily focused on our audio. So if you look down here at the bottom, I'm going to drag this up so you guys can see what we're working with. Let's actually go up here to the audio tab so we can have more of a layout specifically for today's video and audio. So what I wanted to show you guys is the breakdown of how I lay my tracks out. And this is how I lay my tracks out on every project I work on, whether it's a client, whether it's a personal project, whether it's for YouTube, because it keeps me really, really organized. I have everything broken down pretty organized by music, by sound effects, and under sound effects, we'll go into this a little later, and voiceover, because in this specific case, we recorded voiceover for the narrative and the story. So if you had all of these elements and just threw them into your timeline and threw them into your project window, it would be a mess, and it would be a lot more challenging to really get efficient with making your videos. And one of the reasons I want to break this down is to provide you guys the most efficient way to do it. And my OCD, some would say, is complemented here in my timeline. I have my first audio track, which is titled Music. For those of you that don't know how to actually rename a track, most of the time when you're in a collapsed layer panel like this in a timeline, you can't actually see the names of your tracks. So that's one of the reasons I like to expand it. And if you right click on it, you can come in here and you can rename whatever tracks you want, and then you can highlight those tracks and provide a color to them so that the labeling is a lot more organized. So that's our music track here. So you'll see very simple all the way down the timeline. Like I said, we're only breaking down the first 20 seconds, but you can see that that track is just music. The second track I have here is voiceover. I've color coded that accordingly. Third track down is diegetic track or diegetic sound. And like I discussed earlier, diegetic is just the actual sound. So if you're outside with your camera and you have a recorder on, even if you don't have a recorder on, and you're filming the wind or you're filming cars going by, that audio track is referred to as diegetic sound. It's the audio that is recorded when you're recording the video. My sound effects panels and my sound effects tracks typically are anywhere from like 2 to 4 tracks, just because I'm layering things over each other and I'm trying not to have abrupt cuts. So I'll have, you know, tracks layered on top of each other. And that's why you see here we have the fourth audio track is sound effects, SFX2, SFX3, SFX4. There's probably better ways to label those. I try to color coordinate everything. I try to label everything as best I can and separate the tracks so that in the final edits, I can go back, do this, and work as efficiently as possible. The next thing I want to do is get into soloing some tracks and show you how different the video sounds with and without certain aspects of audio. The first thing we're going to do is just play back those first 20 seconds without any audio. Okay, beautiful visuals, but they're not complemented by anything. It has to set some sort of tone, and when you don't hear anything, it's a little strange. You know, the first thing that people actually are connecting to your video is what they hear before they actually see anything. The first thing that is, you know, popping into my brain is, where's the music? Where's some sort of track that has an atmosphere, a tone to it that complements this specific sequence of footage? So what we'll do is we'll unmute the music track just so you guys can hear the music by itself without anything else layered on it. When I'm looking for the tone or the mood of a specific video, Epidemic is like my go-to 90% of the time. And I then save all of those tracks into my, you know, my assets list and my database of music so that down the line, and when I'm creating other videos like this, I can easily source music that I've already paid for. But let's play back those first 10 seconds so we can hear just the music. Okay, we'll stop that there. And I really like this track. I feel like it has a really good energy to it. It moves nicely with the footage and it complements it really well. So you can see a huge difference in just the change of having music and having no music at all. If you were to add nothing else, just a music track, you would already be, you know, halfway to a successful piece. Okay, so now let's just turn off our voiceover track so we can hear just the voiceover with the visuals. And let's play that back. Life is so short. We hear it all the time in our daily lives. But few people ever really take action on those 4 powerful words. Okay, so the voiceover sounds great, but by itself, it is really out of place. But when you don't layer it in with the rest of your track and your music, it just feels empty, right? It doesn't feel right. So what we'll do here is we will turn the music back on and we'll just start right from here so that we can hear what the music and the voiceover sound like together. Life is so short. We hear it all the time in our daily lives. But few people ever really take action on those 4 powerful words. So now you're starting to see things come together. And to me, like when I'm editing, this progression and this sort of storytelling gets me really excited because I start to feel the energy. I start to feel the piece actually come to life, as corny as that sounds. And a lot of that stems from just picking the right music, having the right voiceover if you decide to have narration or voiceover in a piece. Make sure that you're recording it with some sort of high quality microphone. I've been recording all my voiceover with this right here, and that's why I'm using it for videos like this, because it has a really nice sound to it and it sounds void of any other, outside interference, and record in a quiet environment so that there's no issues when you're bringing it into Premiere, and you can easily mix your voiceover with your music. So already I feel like it's starting to sound pretty good. But what I wanted to go back and do now is take that sequence and really, really beef it up with some sound design that would reflect what you're hearing in that moment. So if we were to mute everything just so we can kind of go over this a little bit, if we're going to look at this clip, for instance, our first clip, right? Let's hide the title for a second just so we can kind of see the clip here. So obviously you're not recording any audio on a drone, and drone shots require sound design because you're not recording audio, and you need to then decide the environment that you're in, what it would sound like, and get creative with it. This was an early morning in Oregon. The fog was rolling in. I mean, it's a beautiful clip on its own, but I felt like it needed something to it. I really liked this, just the sound of this. It sounds like a kind of an evening in the Northeast, a pond with crickets and different noises, which I know doesn't match what we're looking at here, but sometimes I like to use sound effects that aren't exactly the sound that you're hearing, but they create a really nice effect. So I really liked that atmospheric noise. And so what I did there is I started by just layering that in, just on that clip. Another thing I wanted to point out is this title here. So one of the first things that you hear in this piece, let's turn this off. Let's keep that on. Okay, one of the first things that you hear in this piece is this first hit right when the piece starts. That right there, right? That creates energy, that creates impact, that draws you in immediately. Now, if you play that without that now that we know it's there, the title sort of just appears, right? There's not that impact of the title. And really what I wanted to do is draw the viewer in to just see that title first and foremost, and give them something to look at right away. These are called risers, and what I've done in the past is I've created a database of different hits and risers and atmospheric tones. I've purchased them through a number of different creators who have started their own sound effects packs. I think Maddie, Hapuya, and Peter McKinnon have created packs, which I've utilized in a lot of my videos. So inside of these packs, which I have saved, you have risers, you have hits, whooshes, atmospheres, moments, all these fight sounds, and different tones to work on. So what I like about the risers is they create just really nice suspense right away. Some of them are, a little bit different than others. So what I did here is I went through a lot of these different packs, and I just experimented. I started finding different sounds that would really bring the viewer in. And what I landed on was this really cool hit. It's called Big Moment Hit. The thing that I really liked about this hit was it had a positive, upbeat feeling to it, but it also just brought you into the action right away. So that was a choice that I made that I think really helps just the beginning of the piece. As you know, people's attention spans are very low, and you need to hook someone right away. So that was a creative decision that I made that hopefully helps the viewer just get into the action right away. So let's go forward a little bit. We're going to take our track, and we are just going to mute music and voiceover, and we'll mute the diegetic track for now, just so we can hear these first 15 seconds with just sound effects that I've incorporated, just so you guys can get an idea of what actually exists under the music tracks. So So you can see there's a lot of layering happening, a lot of different sound design going on, but it's subtle. You know, it's subtle to the point where you're not really paying attention to it. And the nice thing about soloing these tracks and really breaking it down is you can see how many layers go into creating just this small 20-second sequence. So we've already broken down that first couple seconds, but let's keep going. And the next sound we hear is this right here. We're going to solo this. And it's a very simple, kind of like a bassy whoosh. And what I like about it is it draws the viewer into the very next clip, almost like on a hard cut. And the reason I chose a bass, kind of like a bassy whoosh like that, is because the track that I have here, this diegetic track, given that we're in a helicopter in that specific shot, I knew I wanted to hear this rumble of a helicopter. And I looked for sound effects of different helicopters, and I couldn't find anything that quite worked. So I found a clip of a helicopter that I recorded while I was getting into the helicopter. So not from this exact clip, but diegetic sound from something I recorded. And that's this clip right here. And I really like the way that sounds. I like that it's muffled. I actually took that clip. We're going to go into the effects panel here. And we can break this down in future videos, but just really quickly, if you turn this filter off, it's called a low pass filter. This is what the clip actually sounds like. So it's obvious that it's a helicopter. It sounds like a helicopter, but the tone of the sound does not sound muffled the way that I wanted it to. So I applied a low pass filter with the effect back on, and some of the tweaks made. That's what I came up with. And I was really happy with that. So without having to source sound effects for that specific clip, I was able to pull diegetic sound in and use that and repurpose it for a different clip. So I was really happy with how that came out. So let's keep going. Okay, so before we hear the seagulls, you can hear two different sounds going on. It might sound like one, but I think we've been subtle about layering in a couple tracks here. So this first track is a very subtle, gritty sand sound effect. So I didn't want that to really be the overpowering effect here. And what I actually led with is this sound effect right here. Which sounds kind of similar. It sounds like sand, but it's actually someone scraping cereal. It's a very weird sound effect. Sound design can be as creative as you want to make it. Sometimes the most clever sounds that I find aren't even the sounds that I was expecting or thinking about. So in this case, it sounds like someone's maybe scraping on a wall, but it's actually someone pouring cereal or mixing cereal or whatever it is that they're doing. Okay, so moving on. Obviously, we see a seagull, and one of the reasons I picked this specific clip was because I really liked the transition from a whoosh and this grittiness to a seagull flying, and it would be strange if you just had a sound effect of a seagull in there without seeing one. Certain things I think look awkward when you don't see the corresponding footage, and in this case, I was really happy with just the sound of this specific seagull. Now, obviously I didn't record that. That was from a drone. But if we break down just that one clip right there, there's one sound, and then there's another right in the distance. And it's very subtle. You don't really catch it unless you're looking for it. But if we go into our effects panel here, into our effect controls, and we hover over our clip here, you'll notice that I did a very subtle left to right channel pan. And all this is doing is telling Premiere that I want the audio to sound stereo and then move to a right or left mono track to reflect what's happening on the screen here. And in this case, our seagull flies off of the screen, and so in doing so, I wanted that sound to feel like it was further away. And very subtle, like I said, but you can hear it right here, right off the screen, and it kind of fades out into the next clip. So let's move on to the end here. So we keep playing. You'll hear a really nice bassy whoosh that comes in right after the seagull. And it's very subtle and it's a little short. So what I wanted to do is complement that whoosh with something that sounded a little more like wind or like distant road noise. And that was what I came up with. We hear those two. And if we move on this last clip, you can hear a really nice autumn fall rustle of leaves. And that was something that I wanted to showcase, just given the serenity of the clip that we're looking at, how beautiful the color of the leaves are. It just felt like a very natural fit, and I wanted to elevate that to complement that clip and complement the footage. So just a quick recap, guys. In today's video, we talked about the 4 basic elements of sound design. We have music, diegetic sound or actual sound, we have voiceover, and we have sound effects. Creating videos and creating films is an endless process. It's something that you're constantly growing and learning, and I am doing the same every day. But over the years, I've really tried to implement more sound design into my films, into my videos, and I feel like it's made a huge difference in terms of how proud I am of my work, and just the life that it brings when you create something that has a complementary sound design and soundtrack to it. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have not subscribed already, please do so below. We would greatly appreciate it. Until next time, get out there, start shooting, start integrating some of these tips into your videos. I'd love to have you guys share some of your videos in the comments. Hit us up on Instagram. I will put our handle right here below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.